your message to them was about physicality. How did the defense answer that? Really good. Sorry, I lost my voice a little bit. We played really good. That's a physical. We know that's a physical team that we played, and we know this is a physical league division that they play in. So we knew we had to be physical because we knew they were going to be physical. And so, I thought the defense did an excellent job taking on blocks. Again, I'll have to look at the tape of everything, but I did happen to see a replay. Bob showed me the replay of the 4th and 1 stop where, Jalen Carter got some pressure inside. And then really good job by Jaylen Phillips of pushing that back and playing on their sideline of scrimmage. So I think that was a good example of what we kind of saw today. I thought that the rush was active all game, creating pressure, getting third down stops. I don't know what were they on third down. I thought we did a really good job on third down, getting off the field. And a lot of that had to do with how we played up front on the defensive line. But yeah, I just think that, as the year goes on and it gets colder and, that physicality, we put a lot into that. We talk about that an awful lot. And we got tough guys. So, and we know that we're going to get everybody's best shot and they're tough. Again, so much respect. That was a dogfight, hard place to come in, to play. I got a lot of respect for Coach LaFleur and that football team. We've played them a lot of times here in the last couple of years, so a lot of respect for them.
You mentioned Jaylen Phillips. What did you make of his overall influence on this game?
Yeah, obviously, you guys saw it. It felt like he was very disruptive. Like I said, the rush was active and all game from all parts. We did a good job of rushing as a unit. That 4th down play, I think, signifies the kind of physicality that the man has. And, I think about his week of practice and how he goes about his business. Man, he loves football. He loves working. And you could just see it the way he was running around at practice. His motor is constantly running, with wash all the time, just pushing to get better. So obviously it was a really big impact that he made tonight, for his first game as an Eagle. Man, he was. I gotta again look at the tape, but he did a lot of good things that you could see off the huff.
The end of half sequence and the end of game sequence, what factored into keeping the offense on the field on the 4th down in the end of the game, and then sitting on the ball at the end of the half?
So the end of the game, we're up 3, and I would have liked to be in a little closer to kick a field goal. But the closer we would have got, the more, again, you play every situation a little bit differently, but I think it was into the wind on that one. I knew the kick would have to be a little bit lower trajectory, of a kick on that particular one. I got a lot of faith in our offense. It didn't work out on this one. We just didn't get it. But the decision, I stand put on that decision. Especially being up 3, because you go up 6, they're still going to need a touchdown, being a Hail Mary, everything like that. So we would have ended the game if we would have got that, and I got a lot of faith in our guys to be able to do that. But the reason I didn't kick the field goal, again, being up 3, and also just this trajectory into the wind, there on that particular one.
About the end of half.
End of half. So that one was the one we threw. Obviously you go out there and we get that turnover with 23 seconds, maybe 23 seconds. And, really wanted to be able to see, hey, we had 3 timeouts, 2 timeouts, 3 timeouts. Can we get ourselves into range? And, first down, I think, was a scramble. Second down was incomplete. So third down, what I wanted to be able to do in that situation was run it to force them, to get the clock down. We knew we could get it under 5 seconds or 5 and below. And then you don't have to punt in that situation because you can throw the ball up, and waste the time like we did. So I played that how I thought that was, I always am really critical of myself in these situations, and I played those exactly how I wanted to play those in those scenarios. Again, wanted to go get points. We just didn't get positive plays on those first 2. So that's why we decided to do what we did on that one.
Pretty consistently this year, you've had players late in the game make big plays, even though maybe throughout the game it hadn't gone their way. What's it say about the mental toughness of the players they can put that behind them and make big plays late on a stage like this.
Yeah, these guys are here because they're ultra competitive and ultra talented. But, I feel like we got a good football team, and you don't make it on this football team unless you got extra stuff too, right? And you don't, and we got guys with extra stuff in them, right? That mental toughness to be able to, gosh, we talk about that as much as we talk about physical toughness. We talk a lot about mental toughness as well, of being able to, be in the moment at all times, right? That is so critical in our sport, and sports in general, is always be in the moment, regardless of if you made a good play before, if you've been having a great game, if you've been having a shaky game. All that matters is the next play. We'll get everything else fixed as we continue to move forward. But to have guys like that and coaches like that can be in the moment when it's just grimy and nasty. I mean, that's what I said in there. I'm like, hey, sometimes they're ugly. And Vic goes, I didn't think there was anything ugly about that. And then defense decided there wasn't. But, in a moment, like, that's what I said to Saquon. We're up 3-0, and Jalen and Saquon make this great play, and AJ gets a block on the play. We really needed that in that moment. We really needed that. And it's like, hey, it could not be going your way. And then you just got to stay in the moment. And what a good example for our guys. That's how life is too, and I try to correlate those things as much as I possibly can to life, is because you're going to be up sometimes, you're going to be down sometimes, but it's about how you respond, and it's about how you be in the moment for that next one, because all that matters is that next play and learning from the past.
What does it mean to have Jalen Phillips' size and range?
Yeah, he's a big man. Again, I always like to joke when I meet people. Like, I think I met Scott Van Pelt today. He's a really tall guy. He's like, and I'm kind of tall too. And he says to me, he's like, oh, you're taller than I thought. And I said, well, I stand next to Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson all the time. And now Jaylen Phillips, he's huge. He's a huge guy. But I would say to your question, like, those guys come in all different shapes and sizes. You look at BG, he's stocky, but he can play that. He can play those blocks with that strength. So it's not necessarily, obviously in our league with the best of the best, it is like your attributes have to be good to be, especially at that defensive line to lock out. But it really comes down to your physicality and how you play those blocks. And I thought he did a really good job of playing those blocks. Obviously his size has a lot to do with it, but what has a lot even more to do with it is heart and his toughness and his physicality.
There were a few 3rd and longs today where you guys ran the ball. I'm sure with each one there's different decision making, but generally, when it's 3rd and long and you run it, how do you balance like maybe a more conservative play call with let's give the talented players a chance?
Sure, you got to look at the coverages they're playing back there too. A lot of respect for their defensive coordinator and that secondary that they have. They were doing a good job of disguising, playing a little bit of shell in those areas, so you could say, there's times to be able to do that. If you're getting one-on-ones, we didn't think we were getting one-on-ones right there. And then you can still search those and check it down. But, with some of the way they were giving us looks, we thought we could be able to split some of those things in the run game. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I know those will always be questioned, but, I know the defense was playing good in those moments. That's not meaning that we're conceding, because we have a lot of faith in those run calls there. But I think when you're able to run the ball, and again, we didn't pick those up today, but, I think when you're able to run the ball in those areas, it makes some defense play a little bit more honest. But, they were playing a lot of shell behind us and a lot of funky cover twos that, we knew the ball would have been checked down, and it's just a different way to get to that. That was the decision we made right there. And, like we said, we'll go back and look at everything.
With the toughness, you talked about that a lot with Lane Johnson, maybe get back on the field. What did he go through to get there? What did you?
Man, he's a warrior. These guys put their bodies on the line, and I guess got so much respect for that. It just makes you, when you see guys doing that, makes you, we always think about, like, man, you're going to do everything you can as a coach to help these guys, be successful. And then you get stuff like that where they're battling through, and everybody's battling through stuff at this particular point, but Lane goes through that and comes back in a critical time. And it just makes you want to fight, as a coach, it makes you want to fight for him even more. And I know that the players feel that too. So, when you get guys that are, I think back to the NFC Championship game last year, and Saquon saying to Cam when he came back in, like, man, way to fight for us. And Landon, being able to do that, like, way to fight. Like, all these guys are going through, and for Lane to do that, like, man, that just does this to a team even more. When guys are willing to sacrifice themselves for the good of the team. I mean, that's why this game's so awesome. Like, and why we got so many good guys on this team, because it just does this, especially when someone like Lane's doing that.
In there, the offensive players were pretty critical. How do you look at that?
I'm sorry.
The offensive players were pretty critical of the performance overall. How do you look at
Sure.
At the offense is the whole game tonight?
Yeah, sometimes it's going to look really pretty. Sometimes it's not always going to look pretty in this league. We found a way to win. We'll be very critical. We're going to enjoy that. Like, I think sometimes it's like, hey guys, like, we got to enjoy these wins. It's hard to come into this place against this team, well coached, good players, and win a game. So we have to enjoy this, but make no mistake about it. Like, every one of us is determined to get better and continuing to rise. And so I love that they feel that way. We feel that way. But we're going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy this because I know how I feel if I'm in the other end of it. And so I'm going to enjoy this. But, you can ask any of those guys, like, when we get back in there on Monday, obviously this week is be a little bit different. And we're correcting the tape. Like, we're very critical of ourselves as coaches, starting with that. You can ask some of those coaches if some of these game film reviews are enjoyable at times. They're not. And that's my job as a head coach to make sure we're doing everything, because what you want, like, you can't get tied up into the result. Obviously we're here to win games, and obviously we're here and we're paid to win games, and that's our job. And we got to find ways to do that. But ultimately, we want to play to the standard of football that we know we need to play to continue to get better. And so, like, when something, obviously the defense had a great game, we got to get better from that and celebrate those things that we did well and correct the things we didn't do good. And then offensively, obviously, that's not, we scored 10 points. Obviously, that's not enough points. Tonight it was, but it will be business as usual when we get back in there. We're happy with the result, but we don't get tied into it. We get tied into our standard. And that's what's so critical, to be able to paint the picture of what the standard looks like, and then be relentless in holding everybody to that standard, including myself and all the coaches and all the players.